Okay, I'm going to start. I'm Jennie Braman. I'm facilitating the TLC, fall 23, spring 24. I know many of you. Some of you are new to me. I teach studio art and art history. And I'm really happy to be sort of facilitating community, which is what I really see the TLC as. So I will follow up at the end of our time together about what's going on in the TLC. I did just want to remind you that tomorrow night, I will be at Eureka waiting to see all of you just for a little bit. I really love the idea of getting off campus and seeing one another. I know many of you are coming out of your afternoon classes. And if you're anything like me and has poured your heart and soul into your classes, you're probably tired, but it's always energizing to see friendly faces and meet new people. So I'm hoping that we can start up that tradition again, which had been up and running for a while before the pandemic. So Eureka, 4 to 6 p.m., right next to BCC campus. We're not paying for you, by the way. You have to pay, but it's still worth it. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about AI. And I wanted to start off talking about my marriage, which is weird and bizarre because actually my partner, Dave, is a futurist. Ever since I met him, he has been an avid science fiction reader, writer, thinker. He's interested in anticipating technology. He avidly reads and sort of thinks about things. He is all excited about what's coming and wants to be part of that growing edge. He's looking this way. I am looking this way. I am a sort of art historian, right? I love history. I feel comforted, inspired, even I kind of find my context, right, from history. But I'm starting to realize that when I really look at history, the things that inspire me about people who came before us were how they adapted and innovated in times of change. So here I am, really a Luddite. I really am. I do not like technology. My students have to teach me all the time how to do these things. I was laughing to myself while I was logging in everybody for ChatGPT. But one of the real reasons I feel like I'm a Luddite is because I don't feel empowered around technology. I don't really feel like I even know what to ask Google to get the kinds of really amazing information that I would like to have access to. So today, I've planned an hour for us that will hopefully orient us as a community, right, towards even just having a conversation about this emergent, urgent, and disruptive technology that, as much as me and my sort of historian mind would like to just ignore, I know that it's not going away. And we can be either on the forefront of it or we can sort of tag along. So I want to orient us and sort of create a space for community. I want to educate us as a community and start a shared kind of TLC site for resources. And I want to empower us. So to me, that not only means talking with each other, seeing who's in the room, but also to try it. At the end of the day, I'm practical. There's things about my job right now that I don't like, and there's things that I absolutely love. And so I would really love to be spending my time thinking more deeply about why I teach, what I'm teaching, and how I'm going to teach it than some of the other things that I actually think AI can help us with. So the first thing I want to do, and I just put this quote up, there was a really inspiring article by Rachel Beth Egenhofer from USF talking about these sort of bigger questions, right, that we are being asked to ask, right? What does it mean to have humanity? What is human intelligence? And also this idea of regeneration, right? What is it to learn regeneratively? And really, it's funny because the word regenerate is something I'm going to show you in the platform, ChatGPT. And so, even new languages emerging around this technology, but how do we sort of also imbue it with new meaning, right, on this sort of growing edge. So the first thing I want to do is just have you connect with yourself about how you feel about AI. I had a lot of strong opinions. And I just want to say, going back to my marriage, I had a lot of strong opinions. And my first reaction was, no way, get this out of my life. But because my husband is who he is, he started deeply interacting with a ChatGPT he now calls Kiara. Things are getting a little weird, right? But actually, I was pretty amazed. So I want to give you the opportunity today to first sort of find your ground in terms of how do you feel about this, right? And then we'll go from there. So turn to a partner and just talk a little bit about how are you feeling about AI and what's been your experience so far with it. If you are on Zoom, you can just type in the chat. How do you feel about AI? What's your experience with it? I'll just give you a few minutes and then we'll come back together. So I'd love to just get a sense, since I wasn't at each of your tables and I can hear that there's a lot of energy around this. If you're, kind of willing to show your reactions, and the online community, if you can just show your reactions with some sort of, thumbs up or check mark, et cetera. So who in the room is excited about the possibilities of AI? Okay. Who in the room is apprehensive about AI? Who maybe doesn't know how to feel about it? Yeah, I definitely don't know. Okay, so that's good to know. What I'd like to do right now is to share with you another community college professor's, let's do this, response and sort of research around this. Here we are, from Brookdale Community College in New Jersey, Mark Natanagara. And he is an education consultant and also teaches in their Department of Education. So let's see what he has to say.
The word there can refer to as much to a time as a place. For example, some of us were there in 1996 when IBM's program Deep Blue beat chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov. Some of you remember that? In 1998, when Google launched its search engine. Most of this audience was there in 2011 when Watson the computer won Jeopardy and Siri became a pocket virtual assistant. And we definitely all were there in 2023 when ChatGPT passed the bar exam in the top 10%. You may have realized that these dates are all milestones associated with AI, artificial intelligence, the ability of machines to learn from experience. Over that time, AI and machine learning have disrupted just about every industry, including my own, education. Teachers, students, and parents are wondering, what is learning when software can answer every question? Winston Churchill said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Teachers would call this a learning moment. I see it as an ideal opportunity for us to reimagine the future of education. Unfortunately, my industry's response to change is often flight or fight. When a new disruptor becomes overwhelming, like students with cell phones in the classroom, we're tempted to throw in the towel and say, I'm just going to teach the way I always have. That's flight. Or we try to fight. We're told to combat artificial intelligence by using software that promises to detect AI-generated products. But technology evolves way too fast for any technical solution to keep pace. Teachers are also advised to monitor their students more closely to prevent high-tech cheating. Big brother or big sister watching over every student's shoulder every minute is not only impossible, it goes against our mission of building trust, responsibility, independence, and a passion for learning. There are other reasons fight or flight won't work.
Desde el inicio, hemos soñado con crear un futuro mejor. Ahora tenemos la meta de ser carbono neutral antes del 2050 y seguiremos soñando, donde sea que vayamos.
There's flight. There's fight. For one, AI is everywhere. AI-powered apps are making resources increasingly more accessible, removing barriers like cost and language. And overall, AI has improved efficiency and productivity, which obviously doesn't count the hours we use recording AI-enhanced TikToks. And AI is growing. In 2022, another milestone year, Forbes reported 2 million images generated in DALL-E each day. 145 million Americans, 45% of us, use a voice assistant on a regular basis on over 4 billion devices. And the global AI market reached $140 billion, expected to grow by 20% per year. So it's pretty clear AI technology is popular, it works, and it's making money, all of which means it's not going anywhere soon. So what's the problem? Well, we probably shouldn't ignore issues with privacy, intellectual property rights, accuracy, bias, even propaganda, and the difficulty of regulating these technologies. On top of these problems, as AI gets better at generating all kinds of output, educators and parents are concerned with issues of academic integrity. We're worrying it could cause students to miss important contexts, amplify prejudices and misconceptions, even bypass the learning process altogether. Now, I was there to experience when many in my profession feared how thesauruses, calculators, video, and spell check might ruin our students' abilities to read, write, and do math. Today, obviously, we find these in just about every classroom. In that spirit, some educators have discovered a third choice to flight or fight: adapt. They're making artificial intelligence their co-teacher by using it to brainstorm lessons, evaluate assignments, even serve as a 24/7 student help desk and fact checker. Others are teaching students about AI technology so they can use its benefits more productively and ethically, understand its limitations, and even consider it as a career. Now, these steps may go a long way towards making AI work in our classrooms, but they don't address the fundamental question of how we measure learning when machines and devices can write essays, generate charts and images, code software, and ace tests. I suggest that the real threat to our children's education is not machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's how we've come to measure and value human learning and human intelligence. A basic definition of learning is the process of gaining understanding through study and experience. Since the 1950s, computer programmers have been developing algorithms that train machines to process information and make decisions that improve with each success or failure. Now, that should sound familiar because machine learning is modeled on the human brain. Intelligence has been defined as the ability to acquire and apply that knowledge and skills. We say a program is artificially intelligent when it can use the information it's received and learned to answer customized inquiries like, what's the best Bluetooth speaker to buy? Or write me a heartfelt speech for my friend's wedding. The problem with these traditional definitions of learning and intelligence is that they favor the kinds of processes computers excel at. Machines can beat chess masters, win games of trivia, even predict power failures better than human experts, because for these kinds of tasks, they can access and analyze more information far faster than we can. These definitions also don't reflect the neurodiversity of our students, each of whom thinks differently and brings different understandings and experiences to our classrooms. And when we assign too high a value to the accumulation of knowledge, the memorization of procedures, and the recall of facts, it's no wonder students turn to technology for answers. I propose that we redefine and revalue what we consider intelligence. The good news is the means to that end are probably already in our teacher toolkit. They're just buried in there somewhere under a pile of Scantron forms. Let's design more lessons and ask more questions with these 5 characteristics. First, emphasize live hands-on experiences. Then ask, what did you notice when this happened? How might your actions have affected the outcome? How did your team collaborate on this task? Problem solving through discovery, exploration, and reflection is part of what we call active learning, which we know to be more effective than old school models like lectures, worksheets, and book reports. Second, ask questions about meaning. Encourage students to identify their beliefs, see the bigger picture, generalize concepts from one area to the other. Make learning personal by asking, what does this information mean to you? What might it mean to our community or another community? Why is this relevant to anyone? And when children ask us, why do I need to learn this? Adults should have a good answer.
So Sonic builds modern.
Third, ask students to make connections to the real world, to integrate the pieces of what they know. Studies show students are more engaged when they understand context. For example, how does this relate to last week's lesson or to what you're learning in social studies or art class? How do your personal, local, and global perspectives compare? How might this give you insight on the past, present, and future? Fourth, ask students about their feelings. Imagine that. Awareness, empathy, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and playing nice with others are what we call emotional intelligence. As much as we're putting AI into devices that are always listening, maybe even watching, AI still can't read the room. A 1-year-old child, even your cat or dog, can sense your mood better than any computer. Now, we don't normally ask students to flex these 4 muscles, so things may not go smoothly at first, but let's keep in mind, struggle is a necessary prerequisite for learning. Finally, let's have students direct their knowledge and skills towards novel applications. Ask them to apply their current understandings to a new situation or create a new way of looking at an old problem. Only humans can think divergently like that, outside the box. Computers are the box. Artificial intelligence can only follow the rules they've been given. AI can't experience, generalize, reason, reflect, think abstractly, or understand relevance. And it can't access a student's perceptions, interpretations, and feelings. A good education should do all of these things. This is how we future-proof our classrooms. Make AI a co-teacher, work with the technology's strengths and weaknesses, but most importantly, let's value human intelligence as more than just computer-like processing. Get students to use parts of their brains computers don't have. Ask questions AI can't answer. Devise problems chatbots can't solve. We can do that by challenging students with authentic experiences that tap into the incredible capacity, diversity, and creativity of their human minds. Now, I can picture the day when I'll be able to say to my future self, imagined here, ironically, by artificial intelligence, that we were all there and use this learning moment to influence the evolution of education for the better. Then we can all confidently say to our students, we helped you find your there, wherever and whenever it may be. Thank you.
So that I would say is a broad introduction, right, to how some educators are thinking about AI. I've started a module on our TLC Canvas page that has other even more specific ways that teachers are responding. The conversation Heather was bringing up on KQED Forum this week was an excellent and local example, right, of how faculty and staff are really responding to this crisis, right, of knowledge that we're going to be witnessing and participating in. So what I wanted to do right now is just to remind us of the weird pauses when the teacher does some sort of technology. Here we are. All right. So qualities the AI will not have. When I hear him talking about these things, I get alert as a teacher. This is exciting. I love redesigning my assignments. I love thinking about how I can become more relevant. So I wanted our time also to be relevant to you today. And what I am inviting you to do for the next 20 minutes or so is to, in small groups, do one of several things. One, come together and talk about your experiences with, I would say, maybe questionable or what you might feel is unethical use of AI in writing or in completing assignments. I know many of you, and that was even relevant or reflected in the chat, many of you have had this experience. I think it's important that we come together and talk about this and come up with individual and perhaps even institutional sort of responses to this. Now, one thing is you can chat just sort of loosely about it and talk about, what you're doing, what other people are doing, et cetera. But I also want you to be empowered and have AI right in front of you. So each of the laptops that I have put in front of you and the facilitators online, Lisa Crowley and Carolyn Martin, all have access to ChatGPT. So if you are interested in this particular face-to-face version of talking about this sort of questionable use of AI in completing assignments with faculty, talking about and or using ChatGPT to ask it what it might do, I'd like you to come over to this side of the room and gather. You'll have about 20 minutes to connect. If instead you are a faculty or a staff member who maybe wants to think in a very practical way about how they could change their workflow practices, design some way or sort of just experiment with how AI can help you, I'd like you to come. Actually, this is a lot of staff. Let's have this group right over here. We can do these two computers right there. Excuse me. I just want to tell you, for instance, as a faculty member, I know I've also been sitting on an assessment and thinking a lot about rubrics. I'm okay writing a rubric for the sort of, the signature example. And maybe I also know what that, when everything is really lacking. I know how to put words to that, but sometimes I have a hard time with putting words to those intermediary phases. So I decided to give you an example, for instance, of what a workflow shift might look like. And here on ChatGPT, it's a little bit harder for me to see. Let's see. I asked the chatbot. My partner has indoctrinated me into saying, hi, hi, Kiara. No, hi. And then I say what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create a rubric to assess a representational drawing in graphite. This is clearly my field, at the community college. Can you help me make a rubric? And so then it actually did a whole sort of lots and lots of writing, right? But then when I pressed regenerate, it put it into this sort of grid form, which was really, really useful for me, right? Even terms like strong demonstration of graphite, adequate use, limited, those are helpful for me that truthfully, when I'm trying to squeeze in the rubric making with the engaging teaching and all the other things that we do, this is helpful. This is going to save me time, right? So I wanted to sort of give some of you the opportunity, staff or faculty, the opportunity to work together, come up with something you'd like to imagine an AI could help you with, and try it out. The third, go ahead. Okay. Let's see. Is it here? Oh, really hard for me to navigate. I can't really see. That's the problem. I can bring it over if you want. And mouth not great. Okay. Or you could minimize the size of it. There it is. Okay. That's fine. So will I cut and paste this for my rubric? I will not, right? Because I bring my 18 years of experience of looking at graphite drawings and I can tweak things, but it's really helpful, right? For me to not have to invent the wheel, right? So the first group, let me just reiterate, is the group that's working with the quote unquote unethical or out of control use, right, of AI, gathering here. The second group is workflow. We'll be gathering over here. And the third group, which will be gathering right here, are people who'd like to maybe think differently about knowledge in this context, right? What kind of questions would you like to be asking now, given the this list, right? What kinds of assignments might you tweak in order to really harness and amplify human intelligence? Do you want to just talk about it, or do you actually want to apply, again, the AI to see how it might help you? So those are the options. And of course, I know your groups are organic and you'll find your own way through it. But what I'd like you to do is to use this time, and in about 20 minutes, I'd love to hear what's happened for all of you. Each one of the computers I've already logged into, so you're in my account, which again is bizarre. And I do want to say, in addition to providing context for the kind of work you want the AI to generate, you can get an answer, talk about that answer, and then press regenerate at the top of the prompt. And that will give you, again, like another regenerative or iterative sort of version. Also very fun and entertaining to watch and look at. I think we're good. So the online group, you will be put into one group or another, and each of those facilitators also has access to ChatGPT, and you can kind of work it out organically. Are we good? All right, great. So this is unethical use. This is faculty and staff workflow, and then this is redesigning an assignment together to see what could happen if we pair human intelligence with artificial intelligence. And that is to read the room, right? And so one thing that I noticed was that there was some really interesting conversation. And I also really appreciated seeing faculty and staff and librarians, all sorts of different counselors. So more of this to come. I just wanted to say that right away. Before we end, I'd love to hear from, not even just from like organized groups, but just to hear from people who feel moved to connect with us. What happened? Was there interesting conversation? Did you learn something? Were you surprised with what happened with AI? Would you like to share? All right. If no one shares anything.
So when I was first hearing about AI, one of the first questions I had was, I wonder if everybody's always afraid of it. And so my question was not so much job, but could it help me to automate parts of my job? And what I do, I'm always looking for automation. And I was, now I didn't really dig down here, but the first couple of queries basically said, sorry, Roberto, you're going to need to do that yourself. I can't do that for you. So for the meantime, I think I have job security. So
that's great. Anyway. That's great. How about more comments? Things that happened.
My name is Omar, counseling department. Well, we talked about how to incorporate it. And I think all as instructors or master's programs, undergrad, they always, or at least they should teach you critique research, right? To check any biases, anything that's skewed. Same goes with this. So I think in terms of how to implement it and how to utilize it, I think the teachings of how to critique quantitative data, qualitative data, I think should be implemented, and then so they can interpret it in their own kind of ways, if that makes sense.
Other feedback, comments, discoveries?
I just wanted to say, I was one of the ones that was kind of anxious or not really wanting to dive into the AI, but sitting here and learning from Joe, it's the words that we put in that I realized you have to be specific. So I'm not as anxious or afraid, I want to say, as I was in the beginning. So thank you.
Great. We got your order already. Couple other comments? No, not me.
Oh, well, a couple of things we talked about was somebody giving a 0 for an assignment if there were no citations. So it was like a 10-page paper with no citations. But we also talked about not wanting to be the police. And then I forgot your name. Yes. So she talked about how she had students, or she was using it for some of her assignments and having her students use it in minimal ways. But we're still sort of stuck on, if you suspect it, but you're not sure of it, how do you talk to the student about it?
Other responses even to that issue? Has anybody had to talk to a student about that and kind of found a way that felt right? Yeah. So
I want to know how all your good ideas for using it. You're gonna have to say so. Who wants to share?
Yeah, all right. I'll give it to Scott.
No, go ahead.
No, you go.
So first we started off by asking AI, can you please create a college professional development day agenda? And it did a really good job. Is it a they? Is it them? And then we were talking about like what parts of a college research essay can be generated by AI and then what parts are not. And I thought that was we just got started. We could have a long conversation. And then as we were talking, I said, in a college essay, can AI create explanations and significance? Is a bad question. But then it said, yes, it can. But you have to be careful of plagiarism and originality and all these things. So it's actually, I was asking AI what it can and can't do just to see what it would generate. So that was kind of interesting. And as we were talking, I kept coming back to these things, like this idea of the feeling of the students. Like, so this idea of how much they care about what they're learning, how much creativity that's their own, kind of finding their way back into any of the work is really important. So like when they are truly engaged and trying stuff out, that's kind of what we want. When we are maybe giving things that feel outside of them, then they're not engaged. When they're solving problems, when they're integrating information that is helping them live in the world, that's what I think we're trying to do here. Like that's what college is supposed to be, is like some sort of internal human development. And so we maybe need to shift that. The hard part is figuring out, well, how do you assess someone's engagement? How do you assess how someone really cares? It's all self-reported and can probably be written up by AI too. Like, please write how much I care about X, Y, and Z, and they can generate stuff. So how do you, that's where we kind of stuck. Like, where do you measure it? How do you know? And then how do you kind of then do, give grades and all those other kind of practical things that we don't necessarily like doing. So those are some of my thoughts based on what we talked about.
So one thing that I've been like thinking about a lot is where the words come from when you put them into AI and they sort of generate these things. And Rebecca Solnit, who's a writer, she's a Bay Area person. She discovered that like half of her work, her essays, writings that she had done, even books that she had published, went into an AI like large language model thing, and that they were kind of like combed for things like empathy and bias and to like almost emulate human expression. And like I just have serious ethical concerns around that, especially as we think about the idea around representation and who gets represented. And so like whose language is getting represented in these large language models. And if we look back at like the history of scholarly publishing, and we look at hundreds and hundreds of years of just a bunch of white men writing scholarly articles, publishing books, like that's who's, when we say that, you know, the quote that you started with around who is like that AI is looking back and it's pulling from a database and knowledge bases from the past, but it's not generating new knowledge. Like if it's just giving our students these voices that like basically in my mind are not representative of who our students are here, that should really offend our students, that who's speaking for them when they get published. It's not someone who looks like them or has their experiences. It's really like, you know, whatever, 100 years or many, many, many years of publishing and writing and speaking that is done by a predominantly white, male, heteronormative person. So like, I don't know if you guys have talked to your students about that, but like, if that's who they want speaking for them, that's who they're getting.
Thank you. What an interesting way to start a conversation with our students, right, around AI and use in the classroom, right? Nima, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm good. I think you guys covered it. For me, it was mostly on that level of, thank you. For me, it was mostly on that level of significance, developing the wider implications and what Scott was researching here on your AI account. It's mostly this idea that, yeah, while AI can assist with data and generating explanations, it's essential that students use their critical thinking skills to interpret, analyze, and discuss the significance of the information. So it goes along with what Heather is saying as well. I don't think, and what you were mentioning, AI cannot go beyond a certain point. And I think when we design expectations that require our scholars to go past that point of AI's sort of limitation, that's when we are tapping into that engagement, that sense of passion, that sense of wanting their voices to be heard and their experiences to actually have an effect on us and the society in which they live. And I don't think AI, since it's calling or drawing upon data that's available, and most of that data is, as you say, produced by privileged white people, white men mostly, they're not going to get that, or they're not going to get their ideas across because all they're doing is regurgitating white power.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot to even keep going, right? I feel like we could keep talking about many of these points, keep understanding, keep reflecting. I would love to continue this conversation. And so as the TLC coordinator, I'd just like to see a show of hands. Who would like to have a brown bag coming up about this? Maybe even really jumping off of, you know, kind of Heather and Nima's comment around what do we do if, while the AI is sort of bursting through our sense of, you know, our profession, our sense of knowledge, these sort of deep foundational ideas, how do we really add voices, right? How do we make our students aware that they are not being represented in this, and how can they be empowered and become more visible using this technology? So how many people would like to see more of these kinds of conversations? Okay, great. I wanted to show you before we go that I have started a TLC page. Here it is. Where if you go to the modules, many of you know this kind of format, you will see a calendar of current events. But importantly, this, no. Joe taught me how to do this, and hey, it's working. Okay. Here we go. The second or third module, right? Here is resources that we can share with one another. In preparing for today, I've come across several interesting, stimulating writers, including Lynn Dickinson, who's more on how can you kind of work on your faculty workflow, Egenhofer about sort of what is knowledge. The KQED forum, which has been mentioned twice, is really quite great. So if you're driving home this afternoon, you might want to check that out. Sal Khan, who is the CEO, founder of Khan Economy, Khan Academy, rather, actually has some really interesting, specific, I would almost say even mind-blowing ways of thinking about how AI could be used and could actually bring equity to our education. So it's an interesting counterpoint to what has just been discussed here. So what I would love to see is more faculty finding exciting resources like this and emailing me. And I will put them up here so that we have a shared bank of information, and that we can also then discuss some of these things when we meet next. So just in conclusion, I want to say thank you for coming today, and hopefully you feel a little bit more comfortable, empowered, angry, engaged, whatever, right, about AI, but that there's something there that you can at least carry out of this virtual and actual room that, again, helps us clarify really, like, you know, what do we do here? How do we serve our students? And how can we do that better, right? It's sort of almost a cliche at this point, but I really feel like this conversation makes me think more deeply about that. So thank you for coming. And remember, we've got some exciting events coming out of the TLC, including the happy hour tomorrow. I'll see you from 4 to 6. Take care, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.